In this tutorial, I'll show you how to draw any face in any angle, male to female, young to old. We'll also study people with interesting features to conquer that dreaded same face syndrome. So when we're drawing a head from the side, right, we can start off with that ball and shield. So go ahead and draw your ball, and then we're gonna find the middle line, right? So here it's kind of like this. Sometimes it can be hard to see, but you can legitimately like trace the photo just to find the structure. So once we have that ball and shield, again, you can kind of take half of the length, you take the radius, and then you add it to the bottom there. And then from there, you can start to draw out the jaw. And then where does the ear go? Keep in mind that when you're drawing people who are older, like in this case, I would say she's probably 70 years old, right? So when you're drawing people who are older, make their ears bigger, because our ears and our noses never stop growing. When you're drawing a profile from the side, you want to draw in the neck. So we're gonna draw in the neck. They do not do this, okay? Try doing that with your neck. It'll feel super weird and stiff, so don't do that. Necks always curve. They curve and they connect to the back like this. So give yourself that context. Draw the rest of the body. It'll take you less than a minute and you've got plenty of context for everything else. I'm just going to draw in the shape of her hair. It's a little bit flat at the top. Typically speaking, when you're drawing elderly people, they don't have really like a lot of volume on their hair. Their hair tends to be a little bit flatter. So just like when you're drawing little kids, you don't want to give older people super, super heavy eyebrows. Unless they are male, then their eyebrows might be a little bit bushier, but it's still not going to be super, super dark anymore. So when you're drawing in the nose from the side, you also want to consider where is the bottom plane. Okay, so I can see this triangle shape. I'm drawing in her mouth and I'm thinking, okay, how can I, what is the shape of her mouth? And I'm going to tell you guys a trick here. When you're drawing faces at difficult angles, look for triangles. So if you look at the triangle of her nose, right? The triangle of her nose, you're likely going to see that triangle echoed in the mouth. It's like almost the same triangle, right? In the mouth as in the nose. Sometimes it's a little bit different depending on the mouth shape. And then I have to change the shape of her chin. Okay, so you can see older people generally have longer faces. They have more pronounced chins, generally thinner lips, bigger noses. I'm going to draw in the nostril of her nose. Now I'm going to show you the easiest way to draw eyes from the side. Now this isn't a perfect profile. In a perfect profile, eyes would kind of look like the greater than, less than symbol, right? Right. So this is our eyeball, and then the pupil and the iris is generally here. And then you can put in some lashes and then maybe like a fold or something like that. And then eyes are generally in shadow. So I would draw something like that. Okay. But because this is not a perfect profile, you're going to see a little bit more of that triangle shape. So you're going to kind of see more of this shape, right? Really study the shape of eyes. So I'm going to zoom into this here. And you can actually see most people, when they draw eyes from the side, they make them too long. They make them too long because they're thinking about eyes from the front, and it doesn't actually work. So if you look at her eye, right, you can kind of see the corner there. There's the corner of her eye. You can see a little bit of her iris. So it generally looks something like this. And I also made it too wide, right? It kind of ends like this. There's like a few lashes there. And so if I had to really blow it up, this is how it would look. Then you can start to put it in. So just start with the shape. Put in the other eye because you can see a little bit of the other eye. And then we're going to draw in some of the wrinkles. and then start to erase your circle. And you can see the bridge of the nose actually leads right into her other eyebrow, right? That's actually pretty important to know when you're drawing. In terms of the ear, I don't really put in a ton of detail. I don't really think it's necessary. Now you know how to make people look young or old, right? And that's powerful because, there's so many times where we draw a character and then we realize, oh, they actually look a lot older than I had wanted them to, or they look kind of female and I want them to look more male, right? Like these are all things that are solved with proportions. Now let's draw a face that's like looking up. Now I have to figure out, okay, if I draw the ball, like where does the shield go? So you can actually see the bottom of the shield, which is her jawline. So if this is the middle of her face, right? The jawline would probably be somewhere like here, and you can kind of see it. It looks like this shape. It looks like a horseshoe, right? So on the side, it can look like this. It can look like this, right? But there's generally, like, if you think about a piece of paper that's kind of, but not creased, just kind of folded, right? You're gonna see that shape. That is the bottom of the jaw. If you draw that shield, right, if you bring that shield all the way up, it kind of looks like that. Then you can kind of draw in the rest of the neck. So let's say the neck comes up. Look at how straight the neck actually is, right? It's pretty straight here. And because I can't see the other side, I'm just going to draw in the hair, right, the hairline. The hairline is like kind of like going like that. Now I'm going to do a lot of penciling in of the hair shape because her hair makes up so much of the actual likeness, right? It's huge. Like, look how much volume she has here. Now we'll draw in the line of the eyes. Now, if you look at the line of her eyes, right, they actually are about 1/3 on of her face, right? Because her face is so tilted, it's actually not halfway. It's actually kind of more like here. I would say it's actually even higher. Maybe make it higher. I'm just going to start by drawing in her eye and her eyebrow. So I will look at the distance between the eye and the eyebrow and then compare it with the distance between the eye and the nose, right? So I would say it's like roughly the same. So you can use anything as a unit of measurement. The nose, I would say, is roughly about here. And then I'm going to draw the underside of that nose, which we can all see, right, is like that triangle shape. Okay, and then put in the nostril. Once I have the nose in, then I'm going to start to draw in the mouth. And the mouth can be really difficult, guys, at this angle. So again, just look for the triangle. So if I look for a triangle, I would say it's like roughly. Then I'm going to wrap the lip around. There's the top lip. The bottom lip goes a little bit farther. And then I'm going to have to edit her chin, right? Because her chin doesn't come out that far. It actually comes out here. And then make adjustments later. Then you can't really see any ears, or you can't really see where they would go. But I think it's still important to map it out. So if you bring the nose line over here, you can kind of figure out where her ear would go, right, on her head. And then you would also figure out where her neck would go, somewhere like along here. And then in this case, you can just take a big brush and start to put in her hair. You'll start to notice that there's like subtle shading on the face, and usually it's just underneath that chin, right? So I can kind of shade in the chin just very softly. The goal is to really focus the eyes on the face and not necessarily like on the neck or the parts that are less important. If you want to try these drawings for yourself, you can download my references and demos and get access to my full-length workshop on drawing head angles, completely free. And if you drew along with us, share it on our Discord for feedback. It's a great place to connect with other art nerds in our community. Now that we've tackled a difficult angle, I think what we can do is more difficult angles. So I chose some people who are not your typical face, and hopefully this will make it more fun to draw. So when you're drawing somebody older, right, typically speaking, their head is a little longer. So once you have in that ball, right, so if you're drawing somebody like a 70 plus, you probably want to make their face longer. So remember I said take the radius of the circle and extend it? Well, let's make it even longer. And then what I'm going to do is start to put in that ball and shield. And keep in mind, when somebody has an open mouth or a mouth that's smiling, their head is going to be longer, right? The jaw is open, so it's got to be a lot longer. We're going to draw in the line of his eyes, where we think his nose goes, and then again, roughly the shape of the mouth, okay? So this is where you can really exaggerate. Like if you want his mouth to be really big, then draw it really big in this stage. And, you know, if you want like his eyes to be very close together, sometimes what you can do is you can kind of draw in the eye socket so that you can draw the eyebrows and the eyes in one place, right? In one sort of space. And you can see that his eye socket is way smaller than his mouth. I'm going to make his nose a little bit larger, just to kind of play up his age. I would say roughly it's like this. I can't see his ears, but if I had to guess the size of his ears, I would say they're probably bigger because he is older. Then I'm going to add in some of the hair. If I can't see his neck, but if I had to guess, it would be about there. And when you're drawing somebody older, their shoulder, it can come up higher, right? So even though I can't see it, I'm going to guess that his shoulder is like a little higher. So once I have that rough drawing in, then now I'm going to go in with my black and I'm going to start to draw in some of the features. So the first thing is the head wrapping, right? The head covering. And I'm going to use a lot of angles for this because those folds create really nice angles. And I can see all of his chin. I'm just like really looking for ways to frame his face. You want to make sure that the head covering is not smaller than the structure of his face, which is why we draw in the structure first. If we didn't draw in the structure first, then we wouldn't really know how to cover it. You can see some of that bulk is coming from his ears. Okay, so I got the head covering in. I mean, you don't have to draw every single line, just like whatever you need in order for it to feel like cloth. Okay, so now let's draw his face. I'm just going to draw in some of the hair. Again, he's older, so the hair is kind of flat, not really too much volume. And a lot of his character is in his eyes and his mouth, right? So much character in those two places. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably draw in his eyes because my map of the face looks pretty good. So you can kind of see like his eyebrows are sort of inside the eye sockets. They're just kind of dark. He's got some wrinkles here. I'm just gonna make my brush really big and just give it a dusting. And then you can draw his eyes. Find the corners of those eyes. You can see they run right into his eyebrow. And you can make his eyes bigger or smaller. It's really up to you. Remember also, like, you don't really see a lot of the iris, especially on people who are older. Their eyes generally tend to be a little smaller. Just from pure like gravity, like just from wrinkling and drooping, there's just less visible whites of the eyes. Okay, so I generally make them a little bit darker. So here I'm going to give him some darker eye circles. So now with the nose, we're going to try to keep it simple, but because he's older, like let's exaggerate his nose a little bit more and just make it kind of bigger. The head covering looks very much like a female accessory, right? So the trick here is to make him look male while giving him kind of these like female accessories. So one of the things you could do is kind of use more angles in the face. So instead of making his nose like very round, I'm actually going to make his nose kind of squarish. Now with his mouth, this is somebody who I would actually draw in the individual teeth because
he's got a very atypical looking mouth. And this is kind of where I would break the rule of the example of suggesting teeth. I think in this case, it's okay to exaggerate, right? And to actually draw in the teeth. So in this case, I would draw in the negative space first, right? And then his teeth are a little bit crooked. So then I would start to put in like the individual teeth. Draw in maybe one or two. Like, I think it's more helpful to actually draw that gradient. Now let's put in some hair. So I generally will start off with a brush that's like a little bit softer for the hair before I go in with like the individual lines. And this is just to kind of keep it simple, not overcomplicate, which many beginners tend to do. We tend to overcomplicate things, right? So I'm doing a little bit of shading here to kind of show you how I would approach the shading without doing way too much, right? Because he kind of has these lines here that extend beyond his face. With shading, I find that most people don't use big enough brushes.
If you want to become a better illustrator and find our tutorials helpful, the easiest thing you can do is hit that subscribe button. When you subscribe, you'll get to vote on what we draw next in our weekly polls. And if you hit that bell, you'll know whenever we go live so you can start learning with us completely free.
So up next, this guy. When you're drawing somebody looking down, you can also like use that ball and shield. Sometimes I will actually use like a square. It can be really effective when you're drawing somebody with more of like a square-like head. So in this case, if you're drawing a box, you would kind of say, okay, can I see how much of the side can I see, right? How much of the side of the box can I see? And then like which way is the box going in space? Can I see the bottom of the box? If you can see the bottom of the box, then you would know like, okay, the neck kind of connects like this. I will use it occasionally. Like I said, if somebody has a really square head, right? Then I'll definitely use the box. Just to keep it consistent, I'm going to use the ball and shield here, just because it's the method that we learned. So it's important to know, what is your POV? What is your point of view on this person? Are you looking up at them or are you looking down at them? Okay, because if you are looking up at them, so say this is my POV right here. This is my eye. I'm looking up at them, okay? If I'm looking up at them, then I'm going to see the bottom of their chin. If I'm looking down at somebody, right, then I'm going to see the top of their head. It's actually really important to know where your POV is because it's going to help you with a lot of things, especially with perspective and like placing certain things properly. I can kind of see the bottom, like the bottom triangle of his chin. It's kind of like here. And then I'm going to draw in the neck and then kind of like bring it down this way. Like, let's map out where his eyes are. If you think about this line here, right, of the side of the box, that's why boxes can be really effective, is because you roughly know like where the side of the face is. You can also kind of like draw a flat part on that ball. Flat part on the head is where it's actually the side of the head. I can kind of see that the angle of the eyes are going this way. You know, his eyebrows are kind of doing this. And then the eye socket, if you want to draw in the eye socket, so from the eyebrows into the eyes, you can see it kind of looks like this. So now we're talking about structure, guys. Whenever you're drawing the eye socket, right, you're drawing the skull, which is, it's like the structure underneath. Then I can kind of draw in his nose, right? And then the bottom plane of his nose, and then his mouth. There's kind of like a poofy part of the mouth, right? Like over here on your mouth, there's a little, almost like a disc. So it's raised. If you feel your mouth, it's like, it's not actually right on the skull. So that's why like his mouth sticks out a little bit, right? And if I was to draw the shape of it, I would kind of draw it like this. So it's not always a triangle shape. Sometimes it can be like more rectangular like this. Even though you can see like a little bit of a hang underneath the neck, I'm not gonna exaggerate it too much. All right, so once I kind of figure out the structure of his face, now I'm gonna put in the ear, because the ear in this case, right, is a pretty important landmark. So I'm gonna bring this over and then bring the nose over like this, and then the ear is actually positioned here. It's overlapping his head a little bit, and he's got a funny shaped ear, like it's not a very typical ear, and so I exaggerated that as well. Now I'm going to reduce the opacity of it so that I can draw the lines on top. When I draw men, I typically will use more angles, right? So here I'm just kind of like drawing out the side of his face. I might make his mouth a little bigger just because it's like closer to us, and I think his mouth has a lot of character. And then the nose, which is the most difficult part, I think, especially in this angle, you really have to find that bottom plane. If you don't find that bottom plane, things get really wonky really fast. And with the eyes, remember the eyes align with the corner of the nose. So in this case, it's in the socket. So I don't like drawing eyes like this, like just curves. I prefer eyes that are drawn as angles because they're just like a lot more intentional and there's more information. So there you go. You can kind of see how you can sort of stylize while preserving the look of somebody, right? Now, if you wanted to give it some very simple shading, I realize like when you're shading somebody with a darker skin tone, right? You kind of have to start off with more of a mid-tone, and then you can kind of work your way through it. What I can do is just kind of shade in some of the important areas, like for example, the upper lip should always be in shadow. The nose, I know I said the nose, right, has like a plane that you probably want to be in shadow. Underneath the lips would be in shadow, and then usually the eye socket is in shadow, right? So if you like really wanted just to add a little bit of shading to it, you can just take a big brush, like either like a charcoal texture or some kind of textured brush, and just go in and give it a little bit of a tone. And obviously you want to give more of a tone to the underside and the neck. So the neck is usually almost completely in shadow. Let's see if we can give this guy some glasses. So you can actually add glasses on any person. The eyes are not typically right in the middle of the glasses. They're typically closer to the top in most cases. So if you wanted to add glasses on to somebody, you just want to make sure that the eye is not exactly in the middle because it doesn't look very natural, right? You basically would just draw frames around them and then maybe like a nose piece. And then I typically don't really close the frames of the glasses. And I think I made this a little bit too long. So I would probably make this a little shorter. So glasses are pretty easy, right? Pretty easy to draw. Just make sure that the eyes are not in the middle. If you want to dive deeper, join our Discord to access stream notes and demos, get exclusive artwork, art challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. So come connect with fellow art nerds to get inspired.